Hello, Maya.
Hello, Raven.
Great to see you again.
You.
Let's see where I want to start. First of all, we have a number of new subscribers. So to these interviews, to just my interviews with you. So I'd like to say welcome to them first. And also to thank you for some of the emails that have been coming in. And so I just want to start right off the bat with an email from Allison. She lives in Switzerland. And she asked how much of this work that we're talking about, or this topic that we're talking about, relates to Bill's work, and Bill meaning William Buehler, our mutual friend, who, is really in a class by himself, and much of his work, Maya, you have informed. So what does this have to do with Bill's work?
Right. And this is from Allison, right? My friend Allison? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's William Buehler, who's in his early 80s now. I first met when my mother and I briefly lived on Oahu for some months in 1976. And that's when we met him. We met him at a sort of a spiritual center that was there on the island. And he just really, connected to what I was doing. And as a result, getting to know what he was doing, I connected to that as well. And so that's where the friendship and sort of the colleagueship began. And it was off and on until, of course, we moved from there, and he moved, and life went on. And there wasn't email at first, even that long ago. But we did stay connected. And then in the 80s, he started contacting me for, and this was, again, not even before emails, but started contacting me for sessions with Thoth, the inner planes being that is my mentor and the one that I work with primarily. And so that's when it started on that level. He had, his synergy groups and things were going, and he would send me questions and I would send him answers from Thoth. And that work was rather extensive and set up the basis, I would say, for the synergy work he is doing now, from what information that he received from Thoth through me at that time. Now, as things progressed in the years past, I would say in the last maybe 10 years, he has developed more a base group of people that are visionaries and some degree channels and all of this, and they have input into that. So he still asked me for information, but less so, because he has more people involved now. But it still continues. So it's hard to say, well, how much, because Bill is has such a plethora of his own information. He says he's not, psychic or can receive things, but he gets a lot of things, and so he adds to that basis. So that's all. The only way I can really put it is the real basic beginning work starting in the 80s, because he already had synergy work of his own going before then. But starting in the 80s was largely Thothic material for me, but he just has done all kinds of things with it, and other people have woven their information through it at this point in time. I hope that answers the question.
Well, it answered a lot of questions. And I think that maybe what Allison was wanting to know also is what does ascension have to do with Bill's work, or what does Bill's work have to do with ascension?
I see. Okay. Well, everything.
Yeah.
It's so basic. You see, the Rochelle format that he works with, again, was originally received by me, but not as a format. It was originally received by me as I had a vision at night of this image on my chest, like a breastplate, and it turned out to be the Rochelle. And then I received this. I was calling it the Rasha or something like that. And then I received this book, and it had that in it. I mean, it had the image, and I said, "Look at this, Bill." We were talking on the phone, and I told him to get the book, and he did, and we shared, and he said, "Oh my gosh, this is a Rochelle head. This is the Reshel, the Hebraic." And put it all together. And when he did, that started up this whole Rochelle thing. So then he started asking fellow through me questions about that, and that's how that whole format built. Well, the Rochelle format is the basis for the whole ascension energy experience, and it has the aerial packs that came through me later at the center of it. And Bill works continually with the aerial packs and has since the 80s. So it is it is the ascension dynamic, and I'm sure if we brought him on, which we should do sometime, we should threesome on this. I'm sure he would agree with me. I think so.
Oh, definitely. Well, and Allison also asked, how can she get involved, or how can those who are listening get involved with this kind of work, or is that necessary?
Well, actually, we are doing. I am, working with that on my Osiris Rising project. It's part of all I do, and really kind of the main theme right now. And the main thing that we're working with, the Alexis Mundi, is based on the Isis Eye, the aerial packs format that was given through me to Bill those many years ago, and that he uses so continually in his Rochelle format work. So the long and the short of it is, if they go to my website, or let's see, how can we do this?
Well, they can request to join that Facebook page as well, right?
Yes, they can. And really the Facebook page takes them to the greater work, which is on the WordPress site. So actually, if they just got in touch with, joined the Facebook group, but also got in touch with me personally, and they can do that through Facebook, then they could, I would make sure that they got the right links and everything to really get in this and on my main announcement list, so they get everything that they needed. If they were really serious about, pursuing this whole topic of ascension and the aerial packs work, and really doing something with it, rather than just listening to it. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and that is, for those listening who are not on that, it is Osiris Rising. They can do a search for that on Facebook.
Osiris Rising. And they can do a search and just Google search to get the WordPress, because the WordPress site of the project itself is the one that's packed with information. We discuss it, and little things are commented on the Facebook group. So, but it takes you to the bigger informational package there.
Right. And I might mention also that William Bueller is on that. He's not on Facebook a lot, but his partner Edie is, and they're both members of that page as well as myself. So, yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. I think we pretty much answered her question. And then I had a couple of people, Jennifer and Sage, for name, to name them, emailed me asking for clarification on the September timeline. It's this, this elusive timeline that people have been kind of talking about in emails and channelings for a couple of months now, at least, probably longer than that, but it's been on my radar since then. So what do you have to say, or what does Thoth have to say about that?
Well, first of all, I've not really received anything directly about September and this accelerated timeline. But let me tell you first what I have received, and this goes way back. Gosh, I'm trying to think, maybe right after we crossed the threshold of 2012 in December. I have no idea where this material went. I posted it somewhere, but I have so many blogs and stuff I can't even begin to remember. But he was speaking about the fact that we were receiving a timeline that was a more direct one to our goal, our path, and that all the rest were beginning to fall away, all the rest of the possibles, and they were really kind of locked in now. After the 2012, we were locked into that new timeline. He didn't use the word accelerating, or that it was going to be accelerating. He just said the more direct path. Well, you could certainly interpret that as an acceleration, because you're moving forward more directly. Now, he indicated that as that would occur, now remember, this was back early 2013, I guess, or right after that, that as we move into this more and more, the forces that would, the lesser forces, the dark forces, I don't even know what to call it, because I don't want to create too much you know, good guy, bad guy stuff here, but in essence, the archon controlled energy patterns and whatever that were established and holding on to us to a particular reality that benefited them, would really, really try to change that when they saw it slipping away. And there are those among them that are aware of such things as timelines, and they fiddle with them or try to. And so, not to get too cloak and dagger in this, but that is a fact that he has presented to me, or as I see as a fact. And he said that they were really, really going to try to hold on to it, and more they were going to come out with stuff. You know, it was going to be all in our face. It always been there, but it was going to really just come out big time. And he was saying that back then, and look what's happening now. So this would make sense to me that they're now channeling about this timeline. And the thing about creating a date for it, because just when you informed me about this and showed me this, and actually I had posted something on it myself and I didn't realize it. I mean, posted something from someone else. I asked him about it again, and he said, well, in the sense of creating, it's really, he said, it's not so much creating it's an accelerated, oh gosh, I'm getting more messed up with my words. It's a timeline that is being purified. I guess that's the best way we can call it. And as that happens, it's difficult to set a time when, there it is. It's really difficult for anything. Even when I set dates, I always say, now remember, this is on our linear perception reality level. So I'm not invalidating the September dating. I'm just saying, and he's not, he's just saying, take it with an understanding that it's always something that's kind of slow motion moving into place, you know, instead of going like that. So we will begin to see the effects of that. We already are, but we'll begin to see more effects of that probably after September. So you could look at it like that, as kind of a speed bump rather than a just, bam, we're in it, you know, kind of a thing.
Okay, that makes sense. The next thing that has been coming up for myself and a lot of clients, and I think I've seen it in a few posts. I believe it was maybe a post from Karen Bishop that was shared by Lauren Avery, but she mentioned a couple of things that are happening to people, and one of them is you feel like you're invisible. You feel like nobody notices you, or certain people don't notice you. And I've experienced this so much in the last few months. And truthfully, Maya, I thought it was because I've reached that certain age where women become invisible. You know, nobody notices anymore. And so my ego self was really excited to find out that there might be another reason for that. So does both have anything to say about that? Does that mean that we're separating? You know, that people are separating?
Excuse me, I'm having a coughing moment. Yes, well, really, it's been going on for some time, but I think it's becoming more and more pronounced now. And we might find that women experience it more than men, and that is because we are separating from the old and embracing the new, and females are the birthers in general. I'm generalizing here, but you know, they're the ones, the womb carriers and the ones that birth things, not just babies, but timelines and all kinds of things are coming through the divine feminine. Now the divine masculine is saying, okay, here it is. Now I'm going to grow it into, you know, I'm going to give it the tools. I'm going to create a reality experience for it to work in. And, you know, so the male energy certainly plays an equal role in all of this, but the female energy is the birther. And if we're gestating right now, and you know, as we gestate our babies in our wombs, I say that from a woman who's never had a child, but I can pick up on it. And we gestate that feeling in our wombs, then we are, you know, experiencing within. We're going within the womb ourselves. We're there with the fetus, you know, and we don't want to get out there and, you know, do a bunch of stuff. And so even if we try to do that, or we necessarily have to do that, be out there in the world, that within element is very much present in us now, because we're birthing this new world. And those of us who don't have the luxury of doing a lot of physical time with that experience, that can be very shattering in a way, because we're being dragged out into the light where we need to be in the soft, sweet twilight,
Mm-hmm. Wow, that really resonates with me. The next question that's been coming up for a lot of people that do work like you and like you and I do, which is not a get rich quick line of work or even a get rich at all line of work. So what some of us are finding is that this work that's our sacred work that we've committed to for in some cases our whole lives, parts of it are coming to an end, or it feels like we're almost done with parts of our work, that it's maybe we came to get humanity to a certain point, and that point now is well within reach.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for all of these light workers out there that were living on a very low income and now it's getting lower?
Well, I believe that at least what Thoth has been showing me, and I received from the Akashic on this for some time, is that we are doing a work that in some ways is coming to an end on the planet, because people are getting their own answers in many ways, and they're receiving their own answers, or they should be at this point in time. But this is a long bandwidth period, and relatively speaking, it's not going to come to an end overnight. So we're not going to be out of a job overnight on this. What it is we're having to shift our frequency to a longer bandwidth and experience what that means for us and what role we can fulfill in doing that. Now, for me, and if I may get personal here for a moment, because I know there are others out there that may be in the same little niche I am. And for me, the work I was doing made me invisible from the beginning. Especially, you're talking about 1968. I mean, nobody saw me. I was blah, 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 and they were going, well, let's look at something else. I can't understand her. And of course, there wasn't any stuff like this to operate through. So I was typing it out and Xeroxing it, sending it out to people. And, I had a mailing list about this big, but that's what I had to do, so I just kept doing it. And so anyway, because of that invisibility that I'd experienced for so many years, I'm more visible now than I've ever been. And I feel more visible now. And I have to say that because it's the opposite end of the spectrum. Not because I'm special or anything like that, but because that is where I started developing in this role so early in time, when nobody could see me, that now I feel that the work I'm doing is more operative in that field that's coming forth now. I've been waiting for it. It's like, okay, I'm here now, hi, you can see me. So that's what I'm feeling. However, all along, I do private sessions for people, and I do them and I get paid for them. And I try to, bring in a little income that way. And, but I don't do a lot of them because not a lot of people ask for them. And but the ones that do really like it. I mean, I've had in 20 years, maybe one person say they didn't like it. They were not satisfied, but the rest of them really were. And a lot of them write back and they come, but it's just, I realize that the reason I don't get a lot of that is because that's not where my deepest heart is. When I do them, I put everything I have into it, and I feel rewarded in my heart for it. Of course I do. I feel good, especially when they come back and tell me that I helped them. But, no matter that, my deepest mission is not that. It's working on a level that I'm working now. I'm speaking to a lot of people, hopefully, and it's a global thing. And when I'm doing that, every little molecule in my body sings. When I'm doing the other, it's a more disciplined. Okay, now let me focus. This person really wants my help, and I'm going to give it to them, and let me get into that stream, and I do. But I have to work it, and I don't have to work what I'm doing with you right now. So The reason I'm bringing this up is because the more universal streaming is what's being called for now. You see, it was always my thing, and I really had to wait for it to happen with the Earth's rhythm. Even if it wasn't your thing before, it has to be, it's going to be your thing now. Not exactly like I'm doing it, but you know, more the rhythm of reaching more people at a time rather than the one-on-one type of thing. And even if you're already doing that, you may, and you still feel kind of invisible right now, you may find yourself simply shifting the vibration of how you're doing it, or what information your informational level you're working on, maybe shifting it to another, or you know, just tweaking it in some way. But from what I'm receiving and what I'm feeling in my inner being is that more and more people are going to be moving out of personal sessions into higher developmental work for everyone, because we're not abandoning the personal session people. We're saying, come join us, you see, because now they're ready for that. More and more they're going to be ready for that, rather than, oh, what do I need to know in this moment? What is this? What is this? And there's still some of that needed, but you know, it's changing. It's changing, and more as it changes, the more and more the people that are working on the personal with people are going to say, well, now I need to move into a more global expression.
Sure. That makes so much sense, because I have had people contact me for one-on-one sessions recently, and I've told them no, you know, because I really don't feel like they need it. I feel like they need to really listen to their own guidance. And it's so amazing. People, you know, are so connected. It's just that little component of not trusting it or wanting to get somebody else to confirm it. So that's the big leap.
That's true. And it can be very helpful to people to help them understand that they are receiving something genuine, and where they aren't, maybe helping them understand how to turn around and receive a greater clarification. Because in my personal sessions with people, and I know it's true with you as well, Raven, we don't tell people what to do, you know, we're helping them find their own way within their own inner being. And this is an important work, and I'm not trivializing, marginalizing, or saying it should just end. Certainly not. People still need that help. But I'm showing you the long bandwidth and why some people are feeling disconnected from what they were doing, if they're doing a lot of that, and now needing to move on more into a global situation. It's a process. It's not just going to change overnight.
That's a great analogy, and that's really helpful, Maya. So moving on a little bit, this is switching gears, but we had talked about last time getting into the holographic universe, and a lot of people know exactly what this is, but a lot of people have some questions, and so I think maybe that's something we should touch on. What do you think?
Okay, that sounds like a good deal. Well, we are in a holographic universe, you know, that's what we're in, and we're moving toward another holographic universe. In other words, we're switching our gears, but right now we're still in the old, so to speak, and we're preparing ourselves, creating our modalities and our platform to move into the new. So let's first talk about holographic universe, period. I know a lot of people have been seeing things on this, and you know, when I first started receiving about the new Earth hologram and the holographic, I don't recall reading or seeing anything on it from a channel perspective or even a scientific perspective that said we were in a hologram. This was something I didn't know about. I learned about first through my own mentorship, is what I'm saying. And then as some years later, as it started coming up, because I was getting that in the 90s, and as it started coming up in the 21st century, especially the last 4 or 5 years, so much on it, and even scientists are picking up on it, I was thrilled, because then I could put more pieces together with the little bit that I had received on it in the past. So bringing that all together, first of all, the scientists and they're saying, well, okay, so we may be living in a hologram, folks. There's a lot of evidence, you know, indications that we are. That means that, you know, everything we're experiencing is not real. Well, from my sources, from Thoth, oh yes, it's very real. Don't ever say something is not real, because well, that's a whole nother topic, really. But even your nightmares are real because they're real experiences happening to you. If you can embrace the reality of something and then say, but look at what it's representing and the fact that I can change my reality, then it makes it easier to do that, rather than saying, oh, that's not real. And you keep kicking it out, but your emotional body is saying, no, it's real. That nightmare I had, oh, that was very real. And you have this, tug of war going on. Say, oh yeah, I had the nightmare. It was real. I experienced it. That was a real experience for me. But now I choose to create a new reality. So I bring that in for a moment because that's the same premise that Thoth is bringing about, saying we're in this hologram. A lot of it's a nightmare too. There's beautiful things, but there's not so beautiful things. And we should need to embrace the fact that we are experiencing this. And as experientially and not only individually, but collectively, as Thoth calls it, it's a consensual reality that we've created within our hologram. It is real. Everything that happens in it is real. But because we can shift our realities, both individually and collectively, we need to understand that it is an intrinsic part of the hologram. The shift switch is right there. It's a big glowing green button, and we can click that. And we can get that shift that we need in increments or more dramatically. And so getting friendly with the big green button and knowing that when you click it, first you get a screen that pops up that says, okay, what reality aspect do I want to shift and how much do I want to shift it? And you can say, oh, that's getting complicated. But take it into your heart. Your heart will tell you exactly, and it doesn't have to be words, or it's going to be a feeling and a picture energy. And that's where you click that button and your holographic reality shifts ever so incrementally in the direction that you need it to go without disrupting the whole consensual reality experience. Mm-hmm. However, when we do that, what we're doing, the more of us that are doing it, we're reaching the 144,000 frequency. It's not a bunch of people, heads counted, but frequency. And when we do that, our consensual reality hologram shifts. So, that's what we're in the process of doing by not accepting some of the things that we've been accepting for a long time as a mass consciousness frequency. Because even those of us who are more aware than the masses, and we worked at it and we deserve that little medal. We can pin it on our shoulder. We are still experiencing that. We're in the soup. We may be our own little special onion floating around, but we're in the soup. And so as such, we have a responsibility to the mass consciousness to lend it our frequencies whenever we can and do. And that's something that automatically occurs. When we develop our spirituality, it lends to the greater mass, the mass flow. And so I think I lost my train of thought, but I was trying to get to something and I can't quite remember what it is now. But I will conclude then by saying that in that sense, our holograph is very mutable, and we need to tend it gently. We need to pull the weeds when we can, not roughly and with a lot of cursing, but just gently. Okay, little weed, I'm just, you don't need to be here right now. Just pick them out and let that garden grow, because our personal gardens are part of the greater garden. And we also need to realize that in the holograph that we share, we cannot zone out, close all the windows and all the doors and say, okay, I'm happy now. We have to, as I said on a video Zoom that I just made, we have to open up those windows. We have to breathe in the toxins along with the good air. But when we breathe in the toxins, we transform them. When we breathe them out as light, we don't attach ourselves to them. When we judge them, when we fear them, when we get angry about the toxins, they glom onto us. When we just breathe them in and mix them with our own light and just breathe them out again, they're being purified for the masses. And opening the windows and the doors means also accepting the reality of the ugly, what we call ugly stuff that we don't like to look at and don't like to feel. We can accept the reality of it. We can look at how we can personally do something to help change it, whether it's a physical thing or just an emotion, spiritual, emotional thing. It's all in us. So what frequency do we shift in our being that helps to change that, because we can't do anything physically unless we've shifted it into heart-centered consciousness. Any act we take physically that is trying to clean up the mess, if we haven't shifted into heart-centered consciousness when we're doing it, we're going, when we're cleaning, I don't like to do this, but I got a clean house. And that doesn't work. The bugs just get bigger, It's like you have to do it when you're in heart-centered consciousness, and everything is just like a light duster, and it just does it all clean. So these are things that we need to be aware of, living in the hologram that we are living in now, and embracing that fully, and not saying, I'm just waiting for the new earth hologram, I'm waiting for the new earth hologram. That means that you're stuck in the old earth hologram, in the present earth hologram. So as we do this, we move toward that threshold. And the threshold, and I don't want to get too far out in this right now because I know we have other things to talk about, but according to what I received, Thoth calls it the pyramidus radius matrix, and that is a matrix of energy experience that we are moving into. Those of us who choose it, who choose the new earth reality, are moving into that matrix. And as we do so, it's the platform that sets us up for the new earth. So it's our bridge. It's where we're getting ready to launch. It's our launch pad. And that's where we're going to be collecting and building new realities and frequencies and whatever. And when the actual moment for LP40, Light Principle 40, as Thoth has been calling it since before Thoth, way back the ultras that I worked with before Thoth called it that. When we reach that point and we actually make a world ascension shift, that's another topic, but when we go into the new earth star, those of us that do because we've chosen it, will be prepared, will be ready. You can't just zoom into there from here. You can't get there from here. You have to go to the platform of learning and experiencing this preparatory level that all the beings are helping us to do. And that is what we're working to get into now. And that's where we're going now. And beautiful, miraculous things will happen in that level. I'll do a whole Zoomcast probably just on that and talk about it. But I'm trying to say as much as I can in this little space right now. So basically, that's what I said.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions. I feel like I'm going, from Ascension 302 back to Ascension 101. But the green button that you mentioned, what if people out there try as they might cannot find the green button? Can you give some steps to that?
Well, for one thing, I guess try is a word they should eliminate. And just be in the space of knowing and feeling good about the fact that they can change their reality before they ever try to do it. Because the minute they start trying, they're setting the present moment on hold while they search for the button. And you want that ability just to do it, so ingrained, it's so automatically, like you breathe in and out all the time, and you don't have to think about it generally unless you have a really bad chest cold or something. You're not thinking about it, you're just breathing. But yet you're pressing a button. Your body is pressing a button, in, out, in, out, in, out, but you're not thinking about it. So that's what I meant by that button. And to be comfortable with it is to really be comfortable with yourself now, who you are now, not frantically searching for the button that turns on the air because you feel like you can't breathe. It's like you need to be comfortable in the atmosphere you're in now and to be able to breathe in the atmosphere you're in now. And the more you feel comfortable about that and doing that, the more that green button is being pressed and you don't even realize it. And then it just gets more and more until you suddenly, you know it. You know you're shifting your reality frequency. It's obvious to you. But at first it may not be so obvious because you're learning how to just be with yourself and your environment. And the way you do that is, well, I'm sure there's many ways you can do it, but the basic stuff is to not judge it, to not judge yourself or others or the environment you're living in. You can be aware of it, and you need to be aware of it, and you can say, it's not okay that there's GMOs in our food and there's no labels on the packages. It's not okay. But I'm not going to judge that. I'm not going to spend time doing that. What good does that do it? It's all part of a package that we developed, all of us together, that turned into this particular scenario. So I choose to shift that reality. And I know I can. So I'm just not going to judge it. The minute you do that, you say, I'm not going to judge it, and I know I can shift it. You've already begun to shift it right there. And it takes you the next step, and it shows you the way. But if you can't get past, I don't choose to judge it, and I know I can change the reality. The minute you get past those two, integrate those two into your field, you're already starting to do so. And then the other steps come. They come to you, and they lead you through. Even if it's so subtle you don't even realize it, and you wake up one morning and think, wow, I shifted that reality, and I didn't even know it, that I did it. People are different, and they're going to experience it in different ways. So I can't say everyone's going to experience just like that. But to get past those two first ones, everyone has to do in order to really start changing reality. And they'll do it one day and they won't do it the next, but they have to keep that. Thoth says persistency is more important than anything. It's like if you spend an hour meditating, but then you do it, oh, I did it 2 weeks ago, and then I'm going to do it tomorrow, and maybe I'll do it the next day, but oh, I missed last time. That it's better to spend 3 minutes, 1 minute, doing it every time you have, every day, but also every time you feel that in your body that says, this doesn't feel right, do it. You have 30 seconds to do it because the boss is on the phone and talking in your ear, and you don't like what he's telling you. You can feel it in your body. Take 30 seconds. Say, excuse me a minute, I need to clear my throat. You just do it and then get back on. I mean, that's what it takes. It's kind of like how parents use the timeout thing with the kids when they're screaming and yelling, okay, let's have a timeout. You need to take that to do that process. Get out of judgment. I can shift this reality. Then don't start figuring out how you can shift it. Just those two things. And then get back on the phone with him. And you're going to notice an amazing difference. Just that. But it can take you further and further and further.
Yeah, and I think anybody that might be listening that says, oh my gosh, that feels so far away. I'm so far away from that. It can happen so quickly. Just all of a sudden you think, oh, remember last month when I used to do this? And it's not even part of my reality anymore. It's amazing how that.
And you won't even have to do that after, you get going with it. And you're going to keep failing. I mean, by that I mean you'll succeed one time, it won't work next time, it'll succeed. But the more consistency, that's what Thoth says, just keep at it. Even if it's just short little bits. That's when all of a sudden, week later, you realize that you have made a lot of progress. You've had more successes than failures on that. And before you know it, there just aren't any failures. You're just able to shift it, except in maybe some really dire situation where it takes a little more, but you can always do it.
And the fear falls away.
Yeah.
That's
fear is the big element, but you get out of fear once you start not judging and knowing you can shift it. Right. Because those are the two things that make you feel powerless. When you're judging things, it means that you're powerless against these awful, awful things that are happening. And then when you get past the judgment, you realize you can shift your reality. When you realize that, then you don't feel disempowered. And when you don't feel disempowered, you don't feel fearful. Fear comes out of feeling disempowered, Even the fear of the unknown is because you feel, if I don't know about it, I can't, I'm disempowered. So all of that comes from that feeling of disempowerment, I believe.
Right. And so just to touch on fear, and then we'll move beyond that and we won't go back. But I do get a lot of emails because there's a lot of fear out there right now. There's a lot of fear being cultivated about, wars and famine and shortages and all that. So just for novelty's sake, what does Thoth say about that?
About all the famine and all that stuff? You mean
pending wars and world wars and things like that?
Well, yeah, I just did a Zoom cast that I think would be very helpful to a lot of people. And it's called The Golden Calf. And it's on the video now, and it's up on my Tribe Light blog site. I can put a link to that. I can give you, I'll put a link to that when I embed this video, and I can give you the link for your site, raven and said it's called the golden calf, and that tells a lot about the whole story. But the short version, and it's kind of hard to have a short version, is that everything's going to work out. That's the short version. No, well, really, it is. But we have to realize that all of this stuff has been with us for a long time. It's just now coming out on our face. And the reason it's coming out on our face is because the timeline is going to be shifting and accelerating, and they don't want that because they're crumbling. The whole 1%, what Thoth calls the one world legion, is crumbling now. And certainly they don't want that. And so they're struggling harder, and we're seeing more. The perception is coming forth. Thanks to Bernie, the 1% has been awakened, and not only not the 1%, I wish they were. The 99% has been awakened, and not only in this country. They're being awakened, and that scares the bejesus out of the elite. And so all of this is going on, and it's just, but we've got the upper hand here. It just doesn't look like it because they're making such ugly faces. Literally, such ugly faces. But it's just faces, they're playing themselves out. We have to stay connected. We have to stay aware. And, those of us who feel so guided, stay involved in the movement of changing things in a physical way, but do it from heart-centered consciousness, or you may as well not do it at all. So it is changing. It is getting better. And my Golden Calf Zoomcast video gives a lot of where we were, how we got there, where we are now, and how we got here, kind of information if somebody wants the longer story.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I have it flagged to watch and have not had time to do that yet. So I will put a link on my website, and then they can subscribe to your YouTube channel, correct?
Yes, they can. The Osiris Arising YouTube channel.
Okay. And we did a long one today, Maya. That was good. I want to end with saying that you can find Maya at newearthstar.org, and also on Facebook and personally, and then Osiris Arising on Facebook as well. And yeah, I think, do you have any closing remarks?
Oh, gosh. I think just like, when a person goes through a really, really rough time with something in their lives, and their friends are there with them, and maybe even they're having arguments with their friends over it, but or they're in their marriage and they're arguing with their spouse, and then they get through it together, and they feel so much closer than they did before, even though they might have had some risks going through it. I think that's what humanity is going to feel like when we get through this. And I say get through this really rough patch. And I think it's going to be a long, rough patch, unfortunately. But, even as it's happening, I think it's going to draw us closer and closer together. Some of us will fall away from the crowd that we were with and get with another crowd because it's more in with what we're feeling right now. There's going to be a lot of shifting going on. But, all in all, it's drawing us closer together. And that's what we need.
Beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, Maya.
You're most welcome.
And I will see you next time.
Absolutely. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.